My sister's husband severely injured their newborn baby, and I'm the only one who can't forgive him. My sister's husband and my sister have been married for 7 years. They have one child that is 3 and another that is 9 months. Myself and my partner and my child, 4-year-old, have been very close with them up until this incident. About 6 months ago, I got a frantic call from my sister that the baby had a broken arm and was in the hospital. This happened when my sister was otherwise occupied with her older child under the watch of the brother-in-law. His story at the time was that the baby had his arm wrapped in a blanket wrong and he lifted him up too quickly, snapping his arm just below the shoulder. Ugh. I told my sister that sounded wrong and she should press him to tell the truth. I assumed at the time that my brother-in-law was panicking and covering up for dropping him or something like that. The next day, everyone found out everything due to findings on the x-rays and CT scans. My father called me because my sister couldn't speak. I vomited and was filled with rage I have never felt before in my life. There were 3 broken bones, the arm being the most recent, a rib, and his leg. This man was hitting, squeezing, and shaking this tiny, helpless baby and hiding it successfully until he couldn't anymore. Obviously, the authorities got involved and cleared my sister of any wrongdoing. Apparently, the first injuries went unnoticed because of the baby's lack of mobility, and any discomfort from them would have been minimal and was just seen as normal baby fussing. I believe my sister didn't know until the arm broke. Her initial response was normal. She was angry, heartbroken, and in complete shock. This brings us to now. The baby has healed completely and is thriving. The authorities have delivered justice in the form of parole and therapy. No jail time at all. Everyone except me and my partner have seemed to move on from their anger and outrage. The piece of shit brother-in-law gets CPS supervised visitation with the kids, and my sister has been seeing him on her own. They go on dates and she is taking him to a family wedding this summer. She told me she's not seeking a divorce and she understands that he has mental issues and this is the reason for what he did. Oh gosh, I'm disgusted. I'm judging her and him very harshly. I physically shake with anger when I hear his name even mentioned. I don't care that he was stressed, overwhelmed, and depressed. While I relate to those feelings as most parents probably do, I cannot forgive him for his actions. He could have put him in the crib and walked away. He could have sought counseling when his feelings started to become unmanageable. He could have done anything else but what he did. 3 separate known times. Who knows what didn't leave a mark for the x-rays to see. I will not be attending the wedding this summer, and I told my sister explicitly that no one from my household will ever be in his presence again. I help her with babysitting and our kids have play dates, but I have otherwise checked out on her emotionally. I don't want to talk to her about what's going on with her and how she is feeling, and I'm sure she has felt me pull away. I feel guilty, angry, and defeated for this. I love my sister and my niece and nephew, and I did at one point accept my brother-in-law as a brother. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. How and when do you forgive someone for something like this? I don't think I can. My husband wanted to open up our marriage, and now I'm dating his boss, so now he wants to close it. Let me start this by saying I didn't mean to start dating his boss. It all happened accidentally. My husband and I have been married for almost 8 years now, and we have always had a healthy marriage and great intimacy life, or so I thought. It came completely out of the blue when my husband sat me down a few months ago and said that he was feeling unsatisfied with our physical connection and he needed something more to be able to be fulfilled. I was so confused. We are intimate a couple of times a week, and he never gave any indication he was feeling unhappy in the bedroom. I was feeling hurt before he even dropped the bomb on me that he wanted to open up our marriage. I felt so small and unwanted, and he rambled on wanting to experience more freedom, but he assured me that he loved me and he wanted to stay together. I asked him why I wasn't enough for him and if there was anything I could do to make him happier in the bedroom or in our marriage in general. But all he said was that it had more to do with his masculinity than me. It didn't make me feel better, but I love him and we had already been together for so long. So reluctantly I agreed and we decided to be open from that day on. Right there, that's where you failed the test, right? If you had said, okay, you want to open it up, then we're no longer married. Guarantee 90% he would have backed up. He was trying to see where he could draw the line with you, and the fact that you said we have been together for so long, you're scared of like trying to find someone else. They used that against you. Our only terms was that we had to disclose to one another when we would start seeing people. The first couple of weeks were excruciating. He immediately started seeing a woman from his office, and I would just stay at home and cry myself to sleep while I pictured him out with the younger, more attractive women. I was devastated for a while and honestly had zero interest in dating anyone other than my husband. But after 5 months of him dating one girlfriend and spending most nights with her instead of at home with me, I decided that I deserved to experience some freedom as well. I made a Tinder account one night while he was out with his girlfriend, and I was surprised when I got over 100 matches on the very first night. No one was really catching my attention until I matched with this one very handsome older man. He seemed very successful and he was a gorgeous silver fox. I ended up messaging him and we went out a couple of days later. I remembered the feeling of waiting for him at the bar, and it felt nice to have romantic butterflies for the first time in almost a decade. The date went amazingly and we went to see each other and eventually slept together. It was one of the most thrilling, exotic nights of my life. I hate to say it, but he was a much more talented lover than my husband, and I guess because he was older, he had more experience. Anyways, I told my husband about my boyfriend, and he honestly seemed like he didn't believe me. He literally patted me on the head and said, "Aw, good for you, honey," before heading out the door to spend the night with his girlfriend. Things got messy in a way I could never have anticipated. I knew the situation was sort of rocky, but now I truly feel like I'm living inside a soap opera. Yesterday, my boyfriend texted me asking if he left a manila folder in my car the last time we saw each other. I found the folder and he asked if I could drop it off at his job. I was off that day and figured they were important work documents, so I gathered the folder and a little snack and he sent me his location so I could come drop it off. You can imagine how stunned I was when I followed the address and it took me to my husband's place of work. I had no idea that he and my husband worked together, and all I knew was that he was the head of whatever company he worked for and he held the highest position in his office. He never spoke much about his work and we just liked to relax when we hung out together. Well, I walked into the office feeling awkward about possibly seeing my husband. I walked to my boyfriend's office and he came out to take the folder from me. He thanked me and gave me a little kiss before going back. When I turned around, of course, my husband happened to be walking by at that exact moment. He had obviously seen his boss kiss me and realized he had been my boyfriend all along. His mouth made the perfect O shape and there was hurt creeping into his eyes. I felt sort of embarrassed at that moment, even though I had done nothing wrong, so I just said hi to my husband and quickly left the office. When my husband finally got home, he broke down in tears and said how I could do this to him. I reminded him that the entire situation was his idea in the first place, and that's when my husband said that he was willing to close the marriage if it meant I would stop seeing his boss. The thing is, I have real feelings for my boyfriend and I feel like my husband is being controlling and unfair. I find myself doubting my entire marriage and I think I might end up having to choose between the two of them.
Am I wrong for not having much of a reaction to my daughter coming out and introducing us to her partner? Y'all, I don't know what is in my throat. It could be a bug, it could be dust, but last night, I don't know what I got in my throat, but it's stuck there and it won't get out. So please bear with me on my voice. Every time I talk, it tickles. I'm pretty sure it's hair. Anyways, my daughter is 23 and she requested dinner with us because she had something important to tell us. She introduced us and came out, and my wife was emotional and gave her a big hug and told her how proud she was. I, on the other hand, did not react to her coming out. I honestly did not care about that part. I was honest, her partner was cool and she was very interesting, but my wife told me I was rude for ignoring our daughter's announcement. I told my wife that I didn't care who she was attracted to and all I cared about was that she was happy. I tried to explain that I don't care about that stuff and people like who they like. No need for labels. Am I wrong for not having much of a reaction to my daughter coming out and introducing us to her partner? I told my wife that I didn't care who she was attracted to and all I cared about is that she's happy. I tried to explain that I don't care about that stuff and people like who they like and there's no need for labels. Love is love. She said that my view is slightly homophobic because it shows I'm not acknowledging a different view. I do not see it that way and I want to know if I'm wrong and should apologize to my daughter and her partner. Edited to add, for added context, I did not treat her situation as any different from her brother's. I took the time to get to know the person they're with. But my wife feels I should have treated it differently because they are different situations. Ignoring the fact does not help. For me, when I came out to my mom as lesbian, she did not, well, first as bisexual, she did not care, and then lesbian, she didn't care. She just treated me the same way, honestly, and I think that that's a great way to do it instead of making it a big thing.
Am I in the wrong for doting on my buddy's pregnant wife? My best friend Chris and I are both expecting our first babies with our wives. My wife is 36-ish weeks pregnant and I believe Chris's wife, Polly, is somewhere around 28 weeks. Chris and I are very different in how we treat our wives with their pregnancies. Like, Chris still has Polly do a lot, whereas I will take the weight off my wife in literally any single possible way that I can, even small things. Mainly because I feel utterly useless and I don't want my wife straining herself to do things I could easily do myself while she's growing my baby and uncomfortable anyway. But I guess I messed up the other day. So Chris and Polly invited us out to their boat to go swimming and fishing. My wife was a bit uncomfortable because she's getting close to her due date and is just afraid of going into early labor, so her anxiety has been a bit heavier than usual. Well, Chris kept asking Polly to get up and do shit for him, and I would go right behind her and be like, no, sit down, I've got it. And essentially did the same thing I would do with my own wife. Well, there's a store along the lake that we stopped off at so I could grab some beers, and Polly asked me to grab her a few things. So I did, a mixture of both snacks and drinks, like 4 to 5 items. When I got back to the boat, my wife looked in the bag I got and was immediately pissed off and didn't talk to anyone for easily an hour. I had no idea why she was so upset, so when we stopped off and Chris and Polly jumped in to swim, I asked what was wrong and she's like, pretty effing pathetic, you get her literally everything she asked for and you couldn't even get me the one thing that I asked for. I told her that I didn't hear her ask for anything and she said, yeah, because you were so busy doting on someone else's pregnant wife that you couldn't pay attention to what your own wife was saying. I truly didn't hear her, but then Chris gets back to the boat a bit later and looks at my wife and says, where's your drink? And my wife just glared at me. So apparently my buddy heard my wife, but I didn't, which of course just adds fuel to my wife's anger because it looks really bad. I was right beside my wife and Chris was on the other side of the boat, so I should have heard her. Later on in the night, she told me that she's never been so uncomfortable in her life because Polly and Chris both noticed that I didn't get my wife the one thing that she asked for after getting Polly everything that she asked for, so it embarrassed her. And that she's not comfortable with me doting on Chris's wife at all and that she doesn't want to hang out with them for a while because she's now insecure over this. I was just trying to be nice. So am I in the wrong here? Am I in the wrong for not wanting my autistic cousin at my child-free wedding? Next spring, I'm getting married to the love of my life. We have decided that we don't want children at our wedding. Not many of our friends and family have young children, and the ones that do are fine with getting a sitter for the weekend since we gave them a lot of notice. The only ones to put up a fight are my aunt and uncle who have a daughter with autism. She's 20, but will be 21 by the time that my wedding comes around. She is what they call high functioning, which means that she can talk and wash and dress herself. And she has some friends. She graduated from high school a couple years ago and is currently living with her parents while working at a grocery store. Despite her being technically an adult, I just don't see her as such. Every time I talk to her at a family gathering, it's like talking to a child. She's obsessed with toy ponies and Barbie dolls and brings them up at every opportunity. She draws in her notebook constantly and never makes eye contact when talking to me. She doesn't have loud meltdowns like other special needs kids that I met before, but I really don't want to risk her ruining my special day. I told my aunt and uncle that I didn't want her there and they became very upset. They said that she already saw the invite and knew it was child-free, but because she's an adult, she thought that she's still included. My aunt tried to guilt me by saying that she'd already picked out a dress and gift, but I didn't want to hear it. My fiance says that I'm being an a-hole and that we should let her attend because she's attended other weddings before with no issue. Everyone is making me feel horrible for not treating her like an adult when she doesn't act like one. So, am I in the wrong? Am I in the wrong for telling my boyfriend that I don't want his daughters in my apartment? I'm in a dilemma here because I know that people would think that I'm callous, but I don't think that I am. Give me your honest opinion. I, female 38, met my boyfriend, male 36, at a party 4 years ago and we hit it off immediately. I told him very on that I'm child-free because I know this is a turnoff for many men and I don't want to lead anybody on. After a month, he told me that he had 2 children, 11 and 12 now. I freaked out because I didn't know what to do. I liked him very much, but I didn't want to be a parental figure. He said that I didn't have to. He has shared custody with his ex, and me and him would meet the weeks that he doesn't have custody. Now, he basically lives in my place the weeks that his daughters are with their mother. We said we loved each other very early on, and we decided that this arrangement worked for us, and to break up the moment that it didn't work anymore. I could see myself with him forever. I love him to bits. I love our life together. I love missing him when he's with his family. He proposed to me a month ago and I didn't know what he meant, but he said that we didn't need to get married, but he just wanted me to have a ring. I thought it was romantic. Anyway, a week later, he took his girls to my place for a weekend. His ex was sick and he didn't want the girls to get infected. I asked him if maybe he wanted to be with his daughters instead, but he said that he would miss me since it's our week. I said okay. I have met his girls on many occasions and they're lovely, so I had no problems more than I felt a bit awkward. Last week I got home and he had dropped his girls off in my apartment. They were in my closet trying on my heels and clothes. I was freaking out, so I called him. He said, yeah, change of plans. He and his ex switched, so the girls are staying with us. When he got home, I told him that I couldn't do this. If he was having problems with our arrangement, then I understand, but I still don't want children in my place. He called me an a-hole because his girls have done nothing and are polite, etc. He loves me and we're engaged. Did I expect us to have 2 separate lives when we're together for 4 years and love each other? I'm tired of men thinking that I don't really mean it when I say that I don't want children. I love him and I do want to be with him, and I see our future when his girls are old and left the home and we could live together and even get married. But I don't think that I'm being an a-hole. Yes, our way may be not traditional, but my love for him is not lesser for it.